You're watching Exit 1055 with your host, Richard Rose.
Hey, good morning. I'm Richard Rose. Welcome to Exit 1055 Long Island. This is your CBS affiliate TV 1055 show about all things Long Island. This morning, we look at what is now the global relief effort underway throughout our entire hemisphere, from Mexico to Texas to Florida into Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. The massive relief efforts are overlapping, stretching the resources of those who risk their lives to help those who've been stricken by these many disasters. In Mexico City, dozens of people are rescued in harrowing scenes of bravery as first responders staggered through collapsing debris to pull earthquake survivors through tons of broken concrete, metal, and dust. Yet, hundreds more killed by the massive earthquake that struck the capital city and the surrounding regions. Meanwhile, Hurricane Maria flattened Puerto Rico, knocking out power to the island completely, collapsing hundreds of structures. A death toll rising as rescuers must first clear the wreckage from the roadways, even to reach those inland near rain-swelled rivers. President Trump declared it a federal disaster, and military relief is on its way to the island that was clearly in the bullseye. And, of course, all of this on the heels of the twin hurricanes that pounded Texas and Florida, respectively. You remember Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, billions of dollars in damage with major infrastructure compromised throughout several communities. And in a season of seemingly unending disasters, here now are some of the people who are right there with so many other great first responders to lend a big helping hand and actually saving lives through their agency's critical resources. I want to welcome Neil Lockle and Craig Cooper from the Long Island Red Cross.
Thank you.
You guys have been busy.
We sure have.
Yeah. Do you think at this point that you're able to handle all these different disasters? Because, you know, just from talking to you for the last few moments, you're involved in each and every one of these. Are you stretched too thin?
So the really amazing thing about the American Red Cross is that we are a huge network. We have sent down about 6,000 volunteers to support these multiple disasters and relief efforts.
6,000?
Across the country. Wow. Here from the greater New York region, we've sent about 200 people, but just so you have some sense of our scale, we have over 6,000 registered volunteers with the American Red Cross here in the greater New York region.
Just in this area. Hey, Craig, I mentioned you went down to Florida, right?
I did.
So tell me, where were you? What did you see? When was that?
Well, I spent the duration of the storm in a safe building in Miami. It was horrible in Miami. As soon as the roads were cleared, though, my partner and I really wanted to get down into the Keys and see where we knew that there was going to be much more destruction. In a lot of ways,
you made it to the Keys.
We did. We made it all the way down to
Keys. What did you see there?
You know, it's interesting, Richard, because in a lot of ways, I think those of us that experienced Sandy firsthand here on Long Island. There were a lot of similarities. Key West is in a sense, a barrier island, very much like what we have on Long Island. A lot of the damage was a combination of wind and storm surge, as we saw along the South Shore during Sandy.
Well, you see how wrecked it is, and some people stayed, but most evacuated. Some were questioning when this didn't quite hit with perhaps the ferocity that was really feared, almost apocalyptic in what they were talking about. People saying, we didn't really need to evacuate. Did they need to evacuate?
Absolutely. You know, the forecasters got it pretty much right in terms of where it was going to hit, and certainly the Keys being a 70, 80-mile long stretch of islands, everybody knew it was going to hit someplace, and I think the good news, relatively speaking, is that Key West was somewhat spared, but the middle of the Keys were devastated, as bad, if not worse.
Well, I worked in Jacksonville in the 90s for several years for a television station. I was shocked by what I saw there, but, you know, they'd always talked about how the St. Johns River could back up if there was a strong storm surge.
Exactly.
They were caught off guards there.
It was amazing.
I think it's really important for people to remember that when your local officials are suggesting or recommending evacuation, it really is the safest thing to do, because people are watching and monitoring and really trying their best to assess where the most critical points of danger will be.
Well, you know, everybody is going, what is going on? We've had 8 major catastrophes in 4 weeks, 6 named hurricane or tropical force storm damage that have hit the entire hemisphere, and 2 earthquakes in Mexico City. That's 8 disasters in 4 weeks. What is going on? Are these hurricanes getting worse? People are wondering if they are.
You know, we are not meteorologists nor
course.
climate change experts, but what we can tell you is that as an organization, what we really do constantly is ongoing assessment and ongoing reassessment of our strategies and our plans, and ensuring that we are preparing for disasters. We're monitoring trends. We're in communication with partners.
And that's what I'm wondering, because, you know, I guess my question really is, because we don't really know the answer if they definitely are getting worse. They certainly were this year. Does it change the way you respond to these disasters if they are going to come more frequently and more ferociously?
I mean, part of the good news is that the Red Cross is part of a network of organizations that responds to these disasters. Even just one of these, just Harvey, just Irma. These are storms that are bigger than any one agency can really handle. And the good news was, as we saw in Texas after Harvey, the Mexican Red Cross came across the border and they were helping us a tremendous amount in and around the Houston area.
So what are you guys doing to help with Mexico City, or is that beyond your borders, or it's the international organization there?
As partner organizations or as sister organizations, we stand ready to help. We've been in communication with the Mexican Red Cross. We have committed as an organization to send $100,000 of aid over there.
That's wonderful.
And as they assess what their damage and needs are, they will let us know and get back to us.
Meanwhile, we still don't really have a clear sense of what happened in Puerto Rico. What are you hearing, and what are you doing to help the folks there? Because this is a U.S. territory.
Yeah, so we have about 150 Red Crossers down in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands right now. We're continuing our damage assessments. We are waiting for safety so that we can send our teams out to do these assessments. We are working with local officials and government partners to support them in their efforts to shelter and provide services to the communities.
What do you need? Everybody wants to help. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and there are people from virtually all of these areas that have been struck so hard, living in the New York City area, who want to help, who have family or friends there. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people in our region affected by this through those kind of connections.
Right. Sure. And, you know, what ends up happening after any disaster, Richard, is that people rush to their closets and their pantries, and they want to try and find clothing and food to donate in some cases. Of course, in terms of the Red Cross, what helps us the most is financial donations. You can go to 1-800, you can dial 1-800-RED CROSS, go to redcross.org, or just text 90999 and put in Red Cross, and you'll make a $10 donation.
Well, I know the CBS network had a telethon, raised about $50 million, which is a significant amount of money, and people are still donating to that. How about the Red Cross? What have you guys raised so far from all of these calamities?
We are still in the process of assessing. Folks have been very generous and supportive, and the need is continuing to be assessed, and so we're not going to have final numbers for a while. But in the meantime, what we're doing is providing a lot of sheltering services to a lot of communities across Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. We sheltered just last night over 16,000 people.
It's incredible what's happening. I mean, you still shake your head, and when we get up and do the news, I don't know if people, they think, oh, we love big breaking news. We'd rather we never had to tell any of these stories. What struck you most about the people down in Florida that you saw that now have to recover? What struck you about their spirit?
You know, it's funny. I think just about anywhere you go in the country, people will talk about their neighbors as resilient and tough-hearted people. Until you've met somebody from the Florida Keys who have a unique wiring, they really are.
Of their own.
And the ones who evacuated, who came to one of our evacuation centers in Miami, they're wonderful people. Yeah. All they wanted to do was get home. Of course, the folks that didn't evacuate, I think a lot of them regret it. But these are folks that certainly understand of helping each other, helping their neighbors. What we saw on the news out of Texas with people, you know, just running and helping their neighbors, it was amazing.
It is heartwarming to all of us. Can-do people, no question about that. And here are some of them right here who are lending a hand, a big helping hand with the Long Island Red Cross, Neil Alacal and Craig Cooper. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Richard.
And we're with you and all those folks struggling with this string of natural calamities affecting so many people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when we return, how the food banks now have come to serve a critical role in this disaster relief response, and how they managed to solve a logjam threatening to pile up the many donations. Welcome back. We've been talking about what's been going on with all the disasters from Texas to Louisiana to Florida to the Caribbean to our own coast even. Well, food banks have stepped right into their continually emerging role now as a disaster relief agency able to quickly deliver donated goods. But with so much infrastructure damage from Texas to Florida, one Long Island food bank had to hold on to the tons of donated supplies pouring in from Long Islanders wanting to help their neighbors down south. It was a bottleneck caused by the lack of power at southern warehouses normally used to receive hurricane donations.
There is no electricity, so there's no refrigeration. And then to get into some of these areas, you cannot pass. They're not allowing.
But some local landlords stepped forward to donate space to help ease the logjam, which was eventually broken when a major refrigerated warehouse opened up in Savannah, Georgia, allowing the trucks to start rolling south. And here with us now is Migdalia Otero with Highland Harvest. And welcome to the show, Migdalia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your efforts at Island Harvest. Where do things stand now with these truck shipments?
Well, basically, we're now being called upon not only for Texas and the things that are happening up in Florida, but now we've been called upon for Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico as well?
Yes.
But now that's not even in the continental U.S. You guys are extending your network of help that far now?
They're part of the United States and part of Feeding America.
Right.
So because of that, we're able to lend our support in hand.
What will you be doing for Puerto Rico?
We've been contacted, and now we're going to be sending down about 8 tractor-trailer loads, about 240,000 pounds of food and water.
You have that much stuff collected since what I saw that was piled up?
Yes. Since then, we've collected over 400,000 pounds of product. We've gotten donated warehouse space in different locations because the overflow is overwhelming.
Yeah, that's 200 tons. That's big. That's a huge amount, and all primarily from who on Long Island was donating this?
We have fire departments. I mean, not only food, but we've gotten food, we've gotten funds, we've gotten equipment, we've gotten donations of warehouse space. But you have individuals, troops, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scouts, fire departments, companies,
everybody.
Schools. Everybody has come out to show their love and support.
I've seen people walk into your warehouse with boxes.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're like, can I help? And there's this huge warehouse with stacked to the ceiling, but somebody will bring a box in.
Yes, we've had a lot, probably about over 200 mini food drives across Long Island that have also been supporting us.
Well, it all helps. And, you know, so how will you get that donations down to Puerto Rico? How are you going to do that?
The efforts are being handled through Feeding America. So they're, you know, sending a truck to us, and it's going to be shipped out through United Airlines.
Oh, you're going to fly it in?
Yep, we're going to fly it in a cargo plane.
Because they really need the help, and we still don't even really know what happened there. So here you are helping already in Puerto Rico. And you already were helping down south. You know, the role of food banks has truly changed. It's been going on for a couple of decades, but I think particularly with Superstorm Sandy, the relief agencies saw that, hey, we've got a ready-made helping hand here because you have an established trucking network with warehouse space, and you really have emerged in this role. Now you're going to Puerto Rico. This used to be a Long Island food bank.
Right, and we still are a Long Island food bank. You know, we have a disaster resource center. Ever since Sandy came upon us and we learned a lot of different things, we decided that we were going to open up a resource center so that we can not only help the people on Long Island, but anyone that's in need and a part of the Feeding America network. So
explain a little bit more about how you solved the problem in Florida and what caused it in the first place. Now, a part of it was that we were so generous on Long Island here that it came in, because you have 3 warehouses and they quickly filled up.
Yes. I think what we saw was the outpouring when Sandy came upon us, and we saw how much support and people were willing to give, that we opened it up and sent out information, you know, across Long Island and started saying, you know, if you are willing to help, we're going to collect, and the donations just started coming.
Is it the most you've ever had? Are you even surprised by what you've seen?
I'm surprised. I'm not really surprised because during Sandy we had an overwhelming response as well. So we were expecting it. We just didn't expect it to be as fast.
Are you still needing your these local business people that helped out? Talk a little bit about the people who stepped forward when they heard you were in a jam.
When we first started, we started looking and assessing to see what the needs were. We didn't have much space, so Casone stepped out and said, listen, we have containers that you're able to use. So they brought us some containers. I reached out to Recla Equity and to Lamar and Mar Associates. I said, I need some warehouse space. We need to, because we still have our own business that we have to handle on Long Island. So we still have a network on Long Island that we still have to feed. So we borrowed the space and with open arms.
You know, that's a big thing because they could be renting that space and making money.
Exactly.
And it can be big money. So this is a significant effort on the part of local business to lend a hand too, in whatever way they can.
Yes.
So now what is being sent? Because it's critical now. People don't realize, you know, they might just go in and collect everything in their house that they want to give away, but that's not the way it should be done, right? What are you sending there right now? What is the priority?
The priority in Florida has been water and pop-top canned foods. In Texas, they have the same needs. In Puerto Rico is, you know, I think all 4 areas that we're supporting at this point is the same thing. Pop-top cans, health and beauty aid, light, water, things that do not require electricity to utilize, because there is electricity in some areas in Florida, but not all areas.
And then people might even be able to get into a kitchen. Simple things like a can opener that you would just take for granted most of the time. That if you have a can of food in your hand, but you can't open it because of a can opener, that's why the pop-top cans, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and we all like the convenience of that anyway. The thing is, I was also struck by the toys that people donated there, because that's kind of heartbreaking, right?
It is, because, you know, some areas lost everything, and you know what, to keep a child happy, and they've already seen the disaster, they see, you know, that they're displaced, so, you know, people have poured out and given toys to children. The recommendation, though, is to limit the clothing, gently used clothing and toys at this point, because they're just trying to assess all the infrastructure damages that they need. They have nowhere to store anything, so it's like take and go. Or eat and go. So, you know what? The food and water is what, and funds is definitely number one, because they know what their needs are, and they can buy it. They have better buying power through the Feeding America network to purchase whatever they need locally.
Well, you know, what makes me feel good is to know that there's people like you doing this, because, you know, you got to get up every day and decide you want to go help somebody out. It can be a job, but it's really a mission for you and the folks. You have, what, 8,000 volunteers at Island Harvest?
Yes.
That's a remarkable number of people who are committed to this, and we really appreciate what you're doing. It's making a big difference.
Thank you.
We want to talk about people making a difference a little bit more. Migdalia Otero with Island Harvest, thank you so much for being our guest here this morning.
Thank
but
you
still
again.
ahead for you, some high school teens who survived Superstorm Sandy sending their best wishes to hurricane survivors down south with their love letters from Long Beach. That's next. Welcome back. We'll call them love letters from Long Beach. Hundreds of Long Island students who experienced similar heartbreaking loss from Superstorm Sandy have penned their support for the victims of Hurricane Harvey. Long Beach High School English teacher Jeannie O'Shea is running out of room to stack all the letters students have written the last 2 weeks. It's well-deserved applause for O'Shea. Along with school staff, she called on students to write these letters of support to students in Texas just returning to their flood-damaged schools, many after losing family homes to Hurricane Harvey. O'Shea thought she'd get a few dozen letters, but instead, half the school population took time to pen their support for their flood-ravaged counterparts in Texas.
Right now, I probably have almost 1,000. But I should be getting some more.
O'Shea says the letter-writing campaign struck a chord with a student population who suffered similar loss from Superstorm Sandy.
Dear Harvey survivor, my name is Fiona and I'm in 11th grade at Long Beach High School. 5 years ago, I endured the same struggles you are going through now.
15-year-old Fiona Ramos' family was displaced from their Long Beach home for 2 years. In his letter, 17-year-old senior Richard Lilly wrote that Texas students can count on the same help his family received after Sandy.
What really stuck with me was how the community came together and how people who had nothing, who lost literally their entire houses, were coming together and helping everyone out.
Their teacher says she's proudest of how many of the letters remind Texas students not to lose hope.
Writing these letters was meaningful because it gave us a chance to reflect on what we've gone through, but it also gave us a chance to reach out and to show kindness and friendship and compassion.
O'Shea says she hopes to deliver the letters by Thanksgiving, to deliver a message that, like Long Beach, Texas may be bruised, but not broken. And that is a great message. Now they're expecting to send out what has turned into a satchel full of love letters from Long Beach. They'll be sent to Texas by Thanksgiving. Up next, authorities say the pursuit of a better appearance actually led to identity theft. An unusual story for you this morning. Authorities say the quest for the perfect body has actually landed a Long Island woman in trouble with the law. She's been charged with identity theft, all to fund cosmetic surgery. TV 1055's Carolyn Gussoff explains.
Just days after she started working here at this Deer Park physical therapy office, Suffolk police say 33-year-old Andrea Echevarria was beginning to steal the identities of 3 elderly patients, lifting their personal information to set up a line of credit with this medical financing service. With thousands of dollars in credit, she came here to Romanelli Cosmetic Surgery in Huntington. Sources say the elderly victims were billed for her fat injections to increase the size size of her buttocks, a procedure known as the Brazilian butt lift.
She had the surgery done in her name, but opened 3 different lines of credit under 3 elderly victims' names whose identities she stole from her former employer.
$15,000 in fraudulent charges.
He had claimed that she was authorized to do so as she was their granddaughter. She is not.
Among the victims, the Cosmetic Surgery Center, which must now absorb the losses. Dr. James Romanelli, chief of staff at Huntington Hospital, says under HIPAA laws, he can't identify any patient, but confirms the practice was scammed.
Identity theft affects everyone. All of us end up paying for this.
In court, prosecutors said the Huntington single mother of 2 has a 20-page rap sheet on parole with an extensive record of identity theft. Weeping family members left without comment. Her attorney...
It's mistaken identity. She didn't do it. She did not do it.
The judge ordered Echevarria held on over $100,000 bail, adding no credit cards accepted in this case. Her quest for the perfect derriere could land her behind bars for 7 years on each felony count. In Central Islip, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, TV 1055.
And as you'd expect, Echevarria no longer works for the physical therapy office. Now, Suffolk police say it's possible there are other victims. And that's our show. We'd like to thank our guests here this morning on Exit 1055 Long Island, Neela Lockle, Craig Cooper, and Migdalia Otero. And, of course, all those helping to lend a hand at disaster scenes across our hemisphere. I'm Richard Rose. Please like us on our public Facebook page, and we hope to see you back here same time next Sunday morning. Now check out some events of interest to you in our community calendar. Thank you for being there.